project housing, not only here in
Two, 1, 2, check, 2.
Really, really bad, but all over the country. And a lot of people are wondering if the federal government contributed to the housing collapse in recent years. So we got a question that came into us, let me put it up there and I'll read it to you. How would you phase out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Does the private mortgage industry need additional regulation? That's from William Schmidt. Let me start with Governor Romney.
Well, I think you know that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were a big part of why we have the housing crisis in the nation that we have. And we've had this discussion before. Speaker Gingrich was hired by Freddie Mac to promote them, to influence other people throughout Washington, encouraging them to not to dismantle these two entities. I think that was an enormous mistake. I think instead we should have had a whistleblower and not a horn tooter. He should have stood up and said, look, these things are a disaster. This is a crisis. He should have been anxiously telling the American people that these entities were causing a housing bubble that would cause a collapse that we've seen here in Florida and around the country. And are they a problem today? Absolutely. They're offering mortgages, again, to people who can't possibly repay them. We're creating another housing bubble, which will hurt the American people. The right course for our housing industry is to get people back to work so they can buy homes again. We have 9.9% unemployment in Florida. It's unthinkable. 18% real unemployment here. Get people back to work. We'll get people into homes, get the foreclosures out of the system, let people get into homes, rent properties if necessary, and get America's housing industry growing again.
Speaker Gingrich.
Let me start by saying Florida is one of the 2 or 3 most hard-hit states on foreclosures. How many of you know somebody who's had a house foreclosed? Just raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. The governor has cheerfully been attacking me inaccurately, and he knows it. The contracts we released from Freddie Mac said I would do no consulting, wrote in, no lobbying, none. But there's a more interesting story. We began digging in after Monday night because, frankly, I'd had about enough of this. We discovered, to our shock, Governor Romney owns shares of both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Governor Romney made $1 million off of selling some of that. Governor Romney owns share and has an investment in Goldman Sachs, which is today foreclosing on Floridians. So maybe Governor Romney, in the spirit of openness, should tell us how much money he's made off of how many households that have been foreclosed by his investments. But let's be clear about that.
Mr. Trump.
How's it going?
Forward, how are you?
Good. Did you watch the debate at all?
No, I didn't watch it. I just turned it on right now. But where was it on? Which channel?
It was on CNN, and they're I don't know if they got it live now or not.
CNN, I don't know how to turn CNN on. I think once I go past Fox News, my TV channel stops.
You people.
Us people, yeah.
Hey, listen, the Joe Biden thing, was that, I'm getting a bad echo. Is that from you or from me?
Probably from...
I don't know. I think it's from you. The Joe Biden thing, was that an Indian comment, or was he mocking, was he trying to duplicate a Russian accent? I wanted to get your input on that.
Who was?
Joe Biden. Did you see
I didn't hear that he made a comment. Where was the comment?
He made a comment, I got a bad echo from him.
From me?
Yeah, I think it's from you.
Let me turn down the volume. Is it better now?
Testing 1, 2. I'm still hearing it back. The echo cancellation is not working. But yeah, he did his, famous whatever. I don't know. I like him a lot, and I think it's refreshing that a guy will just say whatever he thinks without any regard for what might be impolitic or not, and just be honest. But it's funny. But some people speculated that he was trying to do a Russian accent or an Indian accent or whatever, what have you.
What was he talking about?
He was talking about outsourcing, and he said, like, when you call...
I don't think it would be Russian. I think it would be Indian then. He probably just did a good job.
But they say Indian, but really it could be Pakistani, it could be Bangladesh. I mean...
Here you go with your Bangladesh again. No, it's just India. I mean, most of the outsourcing is India. I mean, we have 1/3 of Microsoft here is all India. 1/3 there.
Yeah.
And that's locally. So you can imagine how many people they have employed over there. And in Russia, they have some. In Russia, it's not as good to deal with Russians. That's the reason they don't deal with them so much, because they're just not. You just can't. You can't make the same relationship as you can with Indians. Not to say that Indians are perfect. I've heard all kinds of horror stories about that as well. Here comes one of them. Anyway, but what is this now?
I didn't think it was that funny. Just me. Yeah, hi guys.
Hi.
Hey, what's
why,
up?
why the black screen? Are you still doing the SOPA gig?
Huh? No. No, just my camera's not working too well tonight.
Again?
Man. This is bad for an IT guy.
I don't understand. I mean, here's the guy. I watch him in a Hangout with Google developers. He talks about developing Hangout-based deals for kids. Talk about massive amounts of money potential, tons. And he doesn't have, a good setup at home. I mean, I just don't get it.
Where's my phone?
There we go.
I'm just in bed again, okay?
You're in bed?
It's late here.
Are you in the bathroom?
No, I'm in bed.
Are you feeling okay?
Are you mobile? What kind of cam do you have? Who has a webcam in their bed?
Wait. Don't ask him where it's attached to. Don't.
Dan, it's
Who
a
has a
laptop.
webcam in their bed?
Anyone who brings a laptop to bed.
Okay.
You've seen me do this before.
No, I just your hands are open, and I'm afraid Dan is going to ask you where do you have the camera attached to. Based on your position and stuff. It's just, Dan, you're not recording this, are you?
What?
I said, Dan, I hope Dan isn't recording this.
This is a live stream right now. This is a hangout on air.
It's on air. I know it's on air.
I'm just kidding.
We have to be family friendly, not use any copyright.
Yeah, because now we got kids coming in here. Remember, 13-year-olds.
Dan, have you been drinking? You certainly act like you have been.
No,
I'm fine. No, I just finished a show. I did a great show with two guys in Indiana, and it was produced
India.
in
Anyway,
L.A. or California somewhere. I'm not used to seeing you, bedridden.
I hope he's
You've
not.
seen me do hangouts from bed before.
No, I haven't.
You might not. Dan did a 5 or 6 hour hangout when he was testing on air.
Did I hear you wrong? Did you just say you've seen me in bed before?
Wait, there was that time that I went in incognito mode and I saw you a bed hangout, Alan.
It wasn't incognito. You were doing an on-air test. I was a 6 hour on-air test.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, Alan and I, Marina, one second. I'm switching to Russian reasons. Марин, если хочешь, сейчас идут дебаты. On CNN. Thanks to my friend Dan here. So I'm going to take the computer, go in another room. In fact, guys, what? I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to get on the other computer with a better camera. I'm one of these guys who actually has multiple computers. I know Alan is jealous right now, probably, but anyway, let me jump on the better camera so we don't have to go this, because the wife wants to watch the debates. And so I'll be with you in just a minute, okay? Hold the spots for me.
You got it.
I know. Could fill up.
I've heard of a dress rehearsal, but never an undress rehearsal, Alan.
Dan, you've seen me hang out from bed before.
I know. I'm just picking on you.
And I'm not undressed. You can't even see it because my camera just decided to flake out. But I'm not undressed. I'm just in bed.
I think it's Oleg had a great idea last week about using the same Google Doc, so I'm going to do that. I haven't done it, but you can just use that same link, I guess, and I can and we use the same thing for. Okay.
And we'll just add to the top. I would suggest adding to the top of it instead of the bottom of it.
Exactly, and I'll clean it up a little bit to make it, But yeah, anything you want to add? There's so much has happened this week. They haven't introduced a bunch of new features, but there's a bunch of implicated things that.
I was surprised. There's going to be a lot to talk about tomorrow. I really thought it was going to be pretty quiet, and that we'd be talking about names and that was it. But
yeah, I'm hoping to get the Fox LA folks in. I haven't confirmed it yet, but
Oleg, for someone who talks about how they've got multiple cameras working, I'm detecting a camera failure here. I guess we're detecting an audio failure here, too.
What are your thoughts on the miners?
I did a post on that. In fact, I think I even included you in the post.
I did. I saw it and I responded to it, but I was multitasking because I just finished the show. I saw it. But I think it's.
Yeah, I know. It's been an evening. No, in general, my opinion is what. Yeah, I know. In fact, I think it's a very good thing. I think it's a very good thing. I think the people who are complaining about it and calling for adult-only web spaces and such are really being pretty narrow-minded.
What the heck happened?
Although I had a half-hour debate with Peter McDermott this evening on the subject. He raises a couple of interesting points, but I think he's a little off base.
What are his points?
His biggest concern is that, for example, he's worried about the appearance of bullying and the litigious effects of that. So, for example, if you and I, where do we have an echo now? If you and I engaged in a debate, you know, you and I were having a, hang on just a second. Jeff is echoing.
It's me?
Yeah, it's you. Sorry, I just muted you. So, for example, Dan, if you and I were engaging in a conversation where where there's a lot of back and forth, we know we're both adults, so we're freely throwing insults at each other, and somebody joins who happens to be, let's say they're 14. And we're still bantering back and forth, and this person makes some comment, and you say, man, only a real idiot would say something like that. And the kid then goes and kills himself because you called them an idiot. Is that bullying? Are you responsible? Is Google responsible? That sort of issue. That's Peter's concern. I think that's kind of an overblown concern. I think bullying is a problem, but I've never heard of a bullying case like that. I don't think, the kind of one-offs like that are really what's going to be the litigious issues. And did I just spill my entire hand for tomorrow night, or
No, it's okay. I mean,
what's Oleg's position?
And we'll try to revisit it from scratch. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, you have to adapt, and learn and grow. The fact is, a social network is. I mean, they get huge because of young people, and as I put in that thing, like Tristan is 17. He's a very insightful young man, and now I can use it legally, right? And I've had people add me who are underage, and this one kid added me yesterday. He's a YouTube, I think he's a YouTube partner, and he's got all these views and stuff. And he had this funny picture, and it was a silly picture, and it drew my eye, and so I watched it. I looked at his profile, and it was one of 30 ads or something, and I looked at it, and he had a video that he had just done of stuff you don't ever hear, and it was hysterical. I mean, it was really funny, creative, witty stuff from a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I've got a friend who has a 14-year-old. And, he's been on Google Plus for a while. He's a budding photographer. You know, is he a great photographer? No, not yet. He's still learning. But I'll tell you, he's taken some shots that are better than pictures that I've taken. And I think he could really, you know, if he hangs around the photography groups and he participates in some of the photography stuff, I think he'll be a great photographer. And I think if the photographers say now, well, you know, I'm afraid of posting something because kids are going to see it and I don't want to get in trouble, you know, I think they're doing this kid a disservice. Yeah,
a lot of this is nonsense, and I was on that show tonight and we talked about this. And the thing is, it's fear of change, coupled with the whole SEO thing, where people will they'll, because Google's so big and they have such a large footprint, that they're going to manufacture these controversies just because they're going to get, you know, SEO hits, right? And
I don't know. I mean,
it's nonsense. Every social network has. I mean, what's the minimum age for Twitter or Facebook?
13.
13, yeah.
All right, and they've survived.
Right. I think the difference is that they
follow, right? You choose who you follow. Come on.
Right. I mean, one person who. Well, I mean, we'll go into all of this tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, what is Oleg's position on it?
I don't know.
Is this going to be a case where we agree?
I don't know.
Probably not, right?
What do you think, Jeff? I mean, I think it's a good thing. Wouldn't it be great if Justin Bieber joined and brought 10 million new users in 24 hours to Google+, and all of a sudden all of these writers who are writing these stupid, nonsensical stories, Jeff, you got a horrible echo.
I do? You know, I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's coming back to me. The echo
it is coming back from mine,
working
huh?
like
All right.
normally.
Yeah,
but,
let me change my microphone. Hold on. I'll use a different microphone.
But wouldn't it be great if, like, I mean, Justin Bieber joined, and if he joined and brought his, you know, millions and millions of followers over, and then all these writers' kids were saying, like, wow, this service is pretty cool, because a lot of it is just they haven't discovered it yet.
Yeah, the echo is gone. Much better, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, there's so much, there's so many people who are underage out there who have something to offer and are talented and interesting. And again, like Linda Laurie said on her show, who you circle, that's who you read. So if you choose to circle someone who's 15 or 17 or what have you, you're going to read their post. If you aren't interested, then you don't circle them, and you're not exposed to their content.
Here's the devil's advocate, and trust me, it's a devil's advocate. You know, what happens now when you start posting things about, you know, you're posting wonky things, talking about Newt Gingrich's first, second, and third wife.
Right.
And
that's a good point. Yeah.
And you now have a 13-year-old jumping on the comments, making silly juvenile comments about it.
Another example is Oleg's.
Well, you block them then.
Oleg's humorous. Them, right? Oleg's humorous, you know, joke about your camera angle. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of thing. But okay, that's cool. And it's you know, parental responsibility is involved and should be involved. You have to decide if your child is old enough to be involved in the social network. I mean, why tell the Tristan Gilberts? I was on the show tonight with a kid who's 17 and another one who's 19, right? And it was an intelligent show. Robert Scoble and Mike Elgin have both been on the show before me. So it's a real show. And
so you're saying they finally got around to you.
Right. But he's now, but you know, he was, I guess, illegally using the service until today, right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
so that's the thing. That is the thing. I mean, why limit those guys like Tristan, and I used him, and I don't mean to pick on him, and I'm not, but he's been such an intelligent contributor to the program in the past, and just a generally good guy. Why limit those guys to protect people whose parents don't exercise their role of responsibility. You know, I'm for openness.
I am too. I mean, you know, I understand Peter's point, and I kind of, on some level, I do understand some of these people who are saying, you know, they want an adult space. But here's my attitude: it's an adult space. Leave it an adult space. Stop. You know, let's not put these teenagers into a sterile environment. Because if you do, you're going to get sterile adults.
I haven't seen anything
that didn't quite come out the way I
Google
meant
Plus
it.
that you wouldn't see on cable television.
What was that?
I haven't seen anything on Google Plus that you wouldn't see on cable television. And how many kids, when their parents aren't around, you know, are watching cable television? All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2012, and
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I have heard about is apparently there's this guy who keeps going into Hangouts naked. I've now heard this
a video today about that. Yeah, it was, and he's definitely naked.
I mean, I've heard this story more than once tonight. So
yeah,
you know, but honestly, I grew up outside New York City. My parents took me into Times Square in the 70s and 80s. And in the 70s and 80s, Times Square was the pit of New York City. We would park in the Port Authority terminal, we'd walk to Times Square, and every single porn shop, strip club, and everything else was in between those 2 points. You got to learn how to deal with that kind of stuff.
All right, here's a good question. George Cozy in the Netherlands is asking, and George, correct me if I'm wrong in the pronunciation. He's asking, should there be an adult option on posts and Hangouts?
No.
A rating system of sorts?
No.
Well, but before you dismiss it, think about it. There
I have thought about it. The answer is no.
For example, there have been, I saw a Hangout once that was an artistic endeavor, legitimate artistic endeavor, that was a nude sculpture or painting session or something. And it was for people to, learn about art, and that's part of art. Should they have the option in a situation like that, even though it's a legitimate thing? I mean, we're not talking porn here, but that may be something you wouldn't want a 13-year-old to be exposed to, or you certainly wouldn't want a 13-year-old.
Which you?
Huh?
Which you? You say you wouldn't
some
want
folks may not. I mean, should they have that option? Should they have the option of saying, should people have the option of flagging a Hangout or post to be not visible to people? I think George has a valid question.
I think it's a totally invalid question. You're looking at it from the wrong point of view.
Of course.
Are we actually agreeing on
you have no idea what I'm talking about. No, George is asking from the Netherlands, should there be an adult option on posts and Hangouts?
From the Netherlands. That's even more absurd. But
no, I think it's a valid point. Like I was saying, I don't know how much you caught of this. What if you were doing a Hangout where people were painting a nude painting and there's
like
a model
this
involved, right?
guy.
Should you have the right to say, to self-censor and say, like, this is probably not appropriate for younger viewers to see, and like this is PG or R or what have you? I mean, that seems
that would definitely be very helpful. It'll totally stop any teen from looking without any question.
Oh yeah, they would see that. Then there would be a Chrome app to a Chrome extension to locate all of the PG and R Hangouts so that they can seek those out. You'd create a whole genre, right?
No, with Google's announcement today, what they will do is they will set it up so if you log into one of those things, it'll immediately log you off. Google will log you off.
Well, it's a little vague. It actually, I mean, the way it says is if someone joins a Hangout that you're in that's not in your circles, you're blacked out from everything until you say, yeah, I'm really willing to be part of it.
Yeah, I think it's a totally inane option because what if you are in circles?
Well, if you're already in that person's circle, then presumably you're already willing to hear about this guy.
Then you get sued as a pedophile or pedophile, whatever you call them.
But you've already approved them.
Yeah.
Which makes you one, is what I'm saying.
Well, you won't. Sometimes you
They were
won't
using
know,
the
right?
word you here.
No, I think they're treading on such touchy and basically impossible to enforce ground that there's nothing they can do to make this thing fly. There's just nothing they can do. The only thing they could do, in my opinion, is keep it at the age groups. In other words, you're not joining any hangouts of anybody older than the bracket of ages that you have, provided that Google can somehow verify that people are of the age that they say they are. Okay?
Well, there are two schools of thought on this, and you have a good point. But
He was talking to me, Alan. Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing
He already agreed with me, so that's fine.
no, but okay, what George was suggesting, obviously, as Alan pointed out, ironically from the Netherlands. We love you, George. We're just picking on you. But it would be voluntary. You could simply flag it yourself. You could say like, hey, this is a topic that may or may not be suitable for whatever age group, right? But the other side of the coin is, I used to own restaurants, and one of them was in a mall food court when I was in that business.
Peter!
Peter, the one way to get Peter to join a hangout. Peter's ears were burning. The one way to get him to join a hangout is to talk about it.
It's the name, Alan.
But listen, I was in at Apple Blossom Mall. I had a mall food court restaurant, a steak sub shop, where Quiznos is now. And I asked one of the mall manager guys. I said, because there was some kind of security incident, I forget. And I asked about security cameras, and they said, we don't have any cameras in the mall, period, because there's a liability issue. Because the minute you install cameras, all of a sudden you're opening yourself up to being responsible if someone gets robbed or something outside of camera view. You were negligent, right? But if you don't have any cameras, then you're not, and you say there's no cameras, then you're not exposed to that legal potential liability.
Yeah.
So that's a whole interesting thing. The minute you set up a rating system like that, then people will criticize you if that rating system fails.
Yeah, you
So
can never get it right.
one thing about Hangouts, at least you're gonna be able to see potentially how old the other person is on the other end, right? So there is a little bit of
Even that, Jeff, this is so difficult to really judge, because if you got some kid who is 15-year-old, he could already be with a little bit of mustache and a beard, or how many people don't grow them? I mean, the only reason
I think the bigger risk is having kids, kind of doing exhibition type of things on the Hangouts.
Well, it could be anything, but I'm just saying the only reason I have a beard is so people don't mistake me for a young kid.
This is a non-issue. They're on
camera-
anyway.
the camera's
They're
that-
on anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had, I know like some of the, I know absolutely that some of the top people at Google have watched the show before, and I know we've had Tristan on, who's mentioned that he's 17. So I know they're aware of this. This is, these kids have been on for some time now. We've all been circled by,
Look,
and
everyone,
in many cases, talked to people who were underage on the service, and the world didn't come to an end. Perhaps their biggest mistake was not doing it from day one.
No, but like you said, that it could be a liability deal where you're doing some kind of show like this. I think this guy's name is Paul Rustan or Rustan. I mean, he does the body painting, and he's a perfect example. I mean, he actually does the. I just accidentally was, doing Google Plus over the weekend, and noticed he was doing a Hangout live on air, Hangout, and that's what they were doing. And so I'm saying, if the guy has anybody in his circles who is less than 18 years old, they can easily watch it then.
Yeah, what do you think, Peter? Let's bring you in here because George, as Alan pointed out, ironically from the Netherlands, he suggested some kind of like a voluntary rating system where if you were doing a hangout that would discuss a risque topic or something, what have you, that you could set up some kind of like this may or may not be appropriate, either voluntary or mandatory, like no one under 18 could view this hangout or see this post. I mean, do you think that's a good idea, or do you think that that's
Well, Dan, that's the first thing I thought when I saw this. My experience is in loss prevention and risk management. So actually, I created a post which has gained some traction, about 26 shares and about 140 comments at this point, this being about 2 hours ago. And, if you'll excuse me, the post asked, should adults be able to rate their content, restrict people under 18 from interacting with the content? Mm-hmm. Now, Al and I had a good debate earlier this evening where it's not a question of whether or not they can see the content. As I think as a lot of people on this forum aren't aware, this content's visible to anybody on the internet. You do not have to have a Google Plus account to be able to see the content here. So it's not a question of whether or not the content should be restricted to those people. In my line of thinking, I should have the control as to whether or not only adults can interact with the content. That being, if I have a post that's of an adult theme, their parents allow them to be here, they're more than welcome to see it. But I have my right to say, you're not allowed to be in this conversation.
Yeah, but who's gonna enforce that?
Well, now wait a minute.
I mean, how are they gonna know?
Peter's proposing an addition. Here's my issue, though, Peter. You're saying that you're almost saying that you're not licensing it for under 18 use, and I don't buy that. I don't buy why you are the judge about what somebody else should be seeing.
Right.
No, not about what
he's saying. He's saying when on certain posts,
sorry, interact.
He's going to say that they're rated R or whatever. It's not appropriate. And not on every post, but on certain things that he's posting them, but not on everything.
Well, Alan goes back again to who are we talking about being in control here, Alan? Number one, we're talking about Google doing something, number one. Number two, Peter, if Peter is doing a Hangout or Peter is doing a post, it's his Hangout and his post, which means he should be able to do whatever the hell he wants.
Now, see, Alan, here's something I can do. Alan, on the internet, what I can do is if I have a post or a video, I can have a page, I can have a click-through page that says, please enter your date of birth. Now, granted, I'm not verifying their age.
Exactly.
But if they falsify the information on their age, I am indemnified from anything that happens at that point on. Their parents are responsible for them because they violated the terms of that content by falsifying information.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Right now, on Google+, you can say anything you want to any circle you want. You don't have to say it publicly.
Right. Exactly. And that's one thing I don't like about it.
Happy to enforce that for you.
One thing I don't like about Google Plus is the idea that you subscribe to one person because you like their tech stuff, but then they might just bombard you with videos up the yang, and you're not really. I don't really care about music videos. I mean, I just don't care, So I want more informational stuff, and there's no really way to kind of, unless the other person has separate circles about topics that you can subscribe to. So,
I mean, what bugs me as a content creator and as a content curator is that I am supposed to be, is that people are worrying about self-censoring themselves. And to some extent, I agree. We should be saying things on Google Plus that we would be saying publicly. Period. I don't think that has anything to do with age. I don't think that has anything to do specifically with topic.
I censor myself more on Google Plus than I would talking normally. I definitely swear more talking to my friends than I would write an expletive on Google Plus. I've never said
it is. You. That's the whole thing there, Jeff. It's more formal, isn't it?
Right. Totally. And it's out there forever. So
yes and no. Peter, I'm not so sure I agree with that, Dan.
No. Listen, Alan.
Dan, here's where you were right. If they had started this at the beginning, it would have been fine.
Yeah, correct. It wouldn't be an issue. But everything they do, everyone freaks out about, and it's largely much ado about nothing, and it's fear of change, and it's let me write something about Google because everyone knows about Google. And I can get more hits on my webpage if I create some controversial post about it, and I can drive.
If this controversy lasts longer than the election, I'd be shocked.
Oh no, it's got a week tops. You're right.
I think it's got longer than a week. I think Google's is being targeted by Congress critters still, but.
Of course they will.
Well, it's like anything else. You know,
But
there's
anyway, did you guys
antitrust,
notice that
monopolies, all
For
that.
anyone watching this, first of all, okay, for anyone watching this, this will be on my YouTube McDermott Report YouTube account. McDermott Report it's not the main one, but I'll post it on here, the recording, because this is interesting. Peter, you should you'll get an invite for the Hangout on air for tomorrow night's show. You should come in because we're definitely going to talk about this topic, and I think you have a lively argument, not necessarily in tune with Alan and Oleg and mine on the minor issue, and so I think it would be really interesting to have you on. So if you're not doing anything tomorrow, you should join us.
Also, Peter, feel free to steal any of the McDermott reports anytime.
Just start posting.
Peter and I are very upset because there's some photographer who's stolen all the great McDermott domains.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
Dan McDermott is a photographer.
But anyway, one of the topics that we didn't touch here is that Alan is trying to show Google today what to do with people underage in terms of what to show them. You just show them the black screen.
It's not going to work.
No, Alan's camera is broken.
I'll tell you what, John Hanlon is here.
My camera
Listen,
working?
John is here, and I just did his show tonight. John is 17 years old. He's a really smart kid, and I had no idea. I thought he was like well into his 20s. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking
Dan
about.
is seriously buttering him up?
No, I'm being serious. I just did a show, and I thought he was in his 20s. If you look at him and you listen to the show, it sounds really intelligent. It is really intelligent. And when he said he was 17, I was shocked.
Is this the John that's on right now?
Yeah, he just joined us.
You look like a younger Quentin Tarantino.
He is. That's exactly who he is.
He'll take that.
The reason he's so cool is because he's got all these Google things behind him.
Yeah, that's what does it.
Not only are they cool because they're Google, but they're cool because it's Legos.
Okay.
But like seriously, like this is an example of someone who was illegally on Google Plus until today, right? But he's producing a podcast. He's had Mike Elgin on. He's had Scoble on. You know, all these guys, and he's producing great content. He's a player in our sphere, and look at him. He's illegally on the thing. I mean, come on.
Not illegally, Dan. Come on, don't make it like it's some sort of crime.
It is a crime. It's a contract violation.
17-year-old. We're not talking about a 7-year-old here.
It's a crime by the Google police.
Yeah, but that's the thing. See, that's what I'm saying.
Do no evil.
We want to protect an impressionable 13-year-old, right? From
We who?
Everybody
From what?
wants to. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to protect an impressionable 13-year-old from, content that would be scandalous.
Well, Dan, none of that content's allowed in this space according to the terms of service. And now the argument that I was making, I want to be specifically clear on this. This was interactivity with that content, not actually creating any sort of censorship for the content. You can do that by mitigating your circles. My argument is that right now I have the ability to prevent people from adding comments to my posts. I have the ability to lock the post so nobody can share it.
Correct.
Why can't I select if I do that for the entire audience or just the minor audience?
But Peter, you can use. I'm self-censoring here. You can use the F word in a post or a comment.
They can see
No
it.
problem. And you want that to be out in the public domain for a 13-year-old to see, and then a mom has to explain why someone would post something like that.
Or there's a racy photo.
Well, if you're 13 years old, mom has to explain
Job of a parent?
Huh? Go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry.
You say, you make it so that, a parent has to explain that. Isn't that the job of a parent?
It is, and I'm just saying, and from the beginning I said that this is much ado about nothing, that, 13-year-olds can be on Facebook and Twitter, and they could be on MySpace or whatever age it is, depending on the country you're in or whatever the policy is.
And only 13-year-olds will be on MySpace.
This is only an issue because of their late introduction to this. But it's still a beta service.
Right,
we all forget it's still a beta service.
Let's stop the old people talking. Let's see what John has to say on the subject.
But John, before you say anything, Dan, I have to split, so don't forget to send that invite tomorrow for me, okay?
Jeff, yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
See you guys.
Take Take care, Jim.
Right.
And Peter, make sure, please, if you're available tomorrow, I'd love to have you in here because it'll be a good debate. And I hate doing exactly what we're doing. I hate pre-interviewing.
Debating.
I hate like doing a thing before the show because
It's a promo. It's a tease. It's good.
it's a tease. We can't say that because there's a 17.
Okay, enough already. Let the kids speak. Come on.
I don't have a problem with it, but then again, I'm coming from a different view than most users. But I know there were some. I posted this on our show page earlier today, just that under 18 can now come on the show, and some of the comments were that it's going to turn into well, like Facebook or Twitter is, or you're gonna have kids that are posting things and it'll look like YouTube commenting, and it might be, but it's all about the people you circle and the people you see.
Right.
And if you share everything publicly, you might want to change that if you're having kids come on and writing things that you don't want or whatever. It's all your control. I mean, it's about the people you circle or the privacy settings you have. So I don't have a problem with it.
Let me make one quick observation. Your video quality is dramatically better in this Google Hangout than it was on the Skype version of the show tonight. I mean, night and day different.
Right.
It's dramatically better.
Yeah, Skype is not definitely Hangouts are better quality-wise. Especially if
We
you have
talked about
camera.
that since Skype got in bed with Zuckerberg on Facebook, that their
Right.
traffic has increased to the point where their quality's at a degradation. But
On a technical point of view, the Hangout's got an upgrade this earlier today.
maybe that's why
should be.
I don't think it's affecting the echo cancellation because that appears to be an issue tonight that I haven't seen for a long time.
Do you still have a problem with me?
No, now it's
Well,
fine.
we always have a problem with you, Oleg. No.
I don't have any echo cancellation problem with you, Oleg.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Dan.
I love my Russian bear.
Absolutely. It's the KGB connection that Alan should be afraid of, even with the black screen.
Oh, so if I called you crazy Russian, it would have been fine, but crazy Ukrainian is a problem?
No, crazy Russian is also not fine.
Okay.
First of all, the whole crazy notion is not fine. It's totally subjective and debatable. Secondly, the
I told you, you're on Dan's show. You got to be crazy to be on Dan's show.
I've been a U.S. citizen for 25 plus years, so.
Don't call me Russian guy.
I never even had a Russian passport. I was too young to get a passport.
Don't call me Russian guy. American 30 years.
That's not bad, Dan. In Russia, they used to give you a passport when you were 18, speaking of ages. So I never got my passport.
An outrage that will not be overlooked.
Anyway, let's get back to America. Forget Russia.
So what's going on, guys? What do you want to talk about?
Dan, you're the
okay,
host of the show. You tell us what we're going to talk about.
No, it says Thursday random topics. I'm not.
No,
in charge.
Dan, you've got to
let's throw
prompt
it to
us
Mr.
here.
McDermott here. Let's see what he has to say.
Would you guys? Did anybody watch the debate?
Yes. The debate? No, not the debate. No.
John, did you watch any of the debate?
I caught a bit of it before I had to start preparing for our show.
I think that it's really interesting because I did some posts on this today. All the Republican establishment is beating up on Gingrich.
Yeah.
Basically, okay,
Yep.
you got the four guys. You got Santorum, Paul, Gingrich, and Romney, right? The hit on Romney is that he is a moderate, come lately conservative. The hit on Gingrich is that he's out there and unstable or whatever. And I've met him and questioned him before. I got a story. If you Google my name and Gingrich and Huffington Post, you'll see it. My experience with I've never met Romney. I've met Gingrich, but my experience with Gingrich is he's probably the smartest person I've ever met. When I was like 2 words into my question, I was looking at him and I could tell he already had the answer and was just waiting for me to finish asking. And he speaks like he's reading from a teleprompter. Amazing. Santorum seems like pretty 1860s type guy, but he's gotten better lately in these debates. And Ron Paul is someone I could listen to for hours and hours. there's so much to like there, but his strict non-interventionist foreign policy will probably be a deal breaker for a lot of Republicans. But all four of them have really shined tonight in this debate, and it was really interesting to watch. And Wolf Blitzer did a fantastic job at moderating this thing, because it wasn't this silly, you have 90 seconds and then you have 30 seconds or 10 seconds and then a bell goes off and all this crap. It was like he was sitting there on it. He was paying attention. He was letting, his goal was to give everyone equal time, but if there was an issue that had to be hashed out, he would hash it out, and it was just really impressive. And I think Wolf Blitzer really did a fantastic job on the debate. But anyway, those are my thoughts, and I thought, I haven't looked at any feedback yet or polls or anything, but I thought all four candidates did a good job tonight, and it'll be really interesting to see. But I really found it fascinating that Drudge Report had literally 13 separate Gingrich hit piece links on his page, so obviously, you know, he's for Romney or anti-Gingrich. And,
well, I've heard a couple of people comment or make observations that the mainstream, and I put that in quotes, Republicans, or the top-level Republicans, seem to have decided that Gingrich is a liability. And most of them point to the Republican response to the State of the Union address, how there were some not-so-subtle digs about Gingrich's past there.
They're afraid that this is going to be a Barry Goldwater, who wins the nomination and goes on to, you know, resound his defeat. It's going to be hard to beat Obama. I've covered presidents and seen presidents. I've seen Reagan in person, Bush. You know, I covered Obama, and when he was running, then you know, Illinois Senator Obama, and I can tell you that Obama's really, really good on the campaign trail. And when you see him in person, it's like, well, this guy's really got some game. I've seen Reagan. I mean, I've seen the best. I've seen, you know, I was in London when Thatcher was prime minister. I've seen Princess Diana. I've seen all kinds of, like, people who were enigmatic like that. And Obama's in that league. So it's something else. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of these guys have it, except I got to tell you, Gingrich can come from behind. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to see, and I'm not like picking somebody here. I'm being an analyst, right? I'm looking at these guys and seeing what I'm seeing. But I don't. I'm just surprised at the hit he's gotten, and from all these folks afraid of this guy. But I'm reminded of that famous phrase from President Truman when he was talking about, he said if you give the voters a choice between a Republican, or if the voters have a choice between a Democrat and a Democrat, they'll choose the Democrat every time, or whatever the phrase was. And it's kind of like that's the point of the Gingrich campaign and the more conservative guys, as opposed to Romney. If you don't have a stark contrast between the incumbent and the opponent, then they'll choose, you know, the other guy. And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think it's fascinating to watch. And I've never seen a race that was this divided among so many people this late in the game.
Well, it hasn't really been that late in the game. It's only been just a few primaries. You got to remember that. Second thing is Gingrich has been on his face twice already, and he got up and, you know, with fairly amazing results. So I certainly wouldn't count the guy out. Ron Paul,
yeah, he's the leader right now. He's the national and Florida
exactly.
leader.
You look at Ron Paul, you know, with whatever due respect, he's not going anywhere. Just like all the other elections, you can see with all the primaries so far, I mean, unless something dramatic happens and there is a major turnaround in the way everybody's voting, he's not going anywhere. As much as all these people say, you know, vote Ron Paul and everything else, it's not happening, basically, for the guy, for whatever number of reasons. And, you know, Santorum, I can't see Santorum winning over, so I think it's just, and it's going to be Gingrich in the end. And, of course, the Super Tuesday will determine who's going to do what. Florida is going to be a big determination in a couple of days, in my opinion.
It's 50 delegates. It's 50 delegates.
No, but it's going to be, it's the momentum thing. It's more a momentum than any kind of delegates. And the deal with Romney, what I don't get is, you know, I see these commercials on buses that says I'm a Mormon, and that's wonderful. But the reality is last time, when the election was last time, when John was super young, back in those days, I guess he doesn't get the joke. But anyway, when he back in the last election, the big anti-Romney theme was he's a Mormon. Like, America is not voting for Mormon, period. End of story. And that was the big deal last time around. So what I don't understand this time around is how is his Mormonism changed? I don't think it changed any. So did America completely shift? Now they're okay with Mormons, or are they just as not okay with them as they were? So
No,
I think
it's a funny media phenomenon, Oleg. Just like, we all, with JFK, who was the first Catholic president, and ironically the only Catholic president we've had. The thing is, if you're introduced that way, all these guys have a benefit. Like Hillary Clinton, every possible scandal we know about, right? There's no new dirt on the Clintons. There's no new dirt on Gingrich, really.
Well, I wouldn't put dirt on the Bill Clinton in Hillary Clinton's corner. I mean, why are you saying it this way?
What I'm saying is, once you're a known quantity, it's hard to you can't I saw a salesman. He said, always wear shiny shoes. He was giving a speech at a career day when I was in high school. He said, always have clean fingernails and shiny shoes, because you only get one chance to make a first impression. You only have one chance to make a good first impression, and that's so important. Everyone knows Newt Gingrich. Everyone knows he's erratic. Everyone knows he has temper tantrums, but the guy's just so damn smart. Everyone knows that Mitt Romney's a Mormon, and who cares, you know? If your pipe is broken, you need a plumber. I don't care what religion he is. I want someone who can fix it.
I understand, you know? But what I'm saying is, last time around, this was a big deal in news.
He's being reintroduced.
Okay. Also, he's got a lot more money than Gingrich does. That's another issue.
Well, not really. I mean, he spent $2 million plus. He or his super PAC spent over $2 million in Florida, because Gingrich was ahead initially, big time in Florida and South Carolina. And then Romney came in, and I did a post about this right after New Hampshire. Romney came in with all the negative ads, you know, Freddie, Fannie Mac, whatever. Right. And all of a sudden, Romney took the lead in Florida. But then the debate performances, where Gingrich is clearly outmatched, or not, you know, the leader, then that brought it back up. But in Florida, Romney spent over $2 million, and none of the other candidates spent anything. I mean, it was 0, 0, 0, and 2-point-something million in Florida. So naturally, Romney took the lead. Well, now we're coming in here, and then Newt has just gotten this $5 million contribution from the wife, after initially the Vegas casino guy or whatever he is donated $5 million. Now his wife donated $5 million to a super PAC. So now his super PAC is spending $6 million in Florida on TV ads. So all of a sudden he's competitive, and naturally going to become more competitive once you win a primary. You know, I mean, even Santorum did well. You know, had a great couple days after, you know, his pseudo victory. I only say pseudo because it was belated. So I don't know. We'll see. But I thought Bob Dole, that really was like ridiculous when Bob Dole came out saying that Mitt Romney's electable and Newt Gingrich is not electable, when Bob Dole has a history of his own in presidential politics and an 0-4 record. I mean, he ran for vice president once, lost.
That was a great line you had at the end of that post, Dan.
No, clearly it's the establishment.
I stole the line. Someone said about Rush Limbaugh. They couldn't deliver a pizza. But the point's, I mean, true. I mean, Bob Dole has an 0-4 record of running for president or vice president, right? Who the hell is he to tell us who's electable or not? Give me
that's true. But I mean, who are we to tell who is electable or not? We're still saying it. I mean, it's just the guy's opinion.
I'm a mainstream media, Oleg.
But he's a known Republican guy. I mean, the guy was a presidential candidate and all this other stuff.
3 times and lost. One time he got a total of 597 votes in New Hampshire.
How many times did Lincoln lose when he was running for different offices?
I stand outmatched. I have no idea.
Okay, a number of times he lost.
That Gingrich has never lost a presidential election. He's never lost a vice presidential election.
No, Oleg makes an excellent point. Oleg makes an excellent point. Do you know exactly how many elections Lincoln won before? Do you know exactly how many elections Lincoln won, period?
One.
I knew he was a congressman and a senator in Illinois, and then won the presidency.
He won exactly one election.
Well, it had to be more than that since he was, in Congress, and then he was a president. It had to be more than one.
No. He was a senator from Illinois?
Don't you have to win to get to be a senator from Illinois?
Wasn't he a congressman first?
Not then you didn't.
I thought Lincoln was a congressman before he was a senator.
No, he ran for Congress and lost.
And then he ran
the whole
for
Lincoln Sumner debates. The whole Lincoln debates. He lost those debates.
Did you say Lincoln Sumner?
What did I know it's not Lincoln Sumner. That's why I corrected myself the second time. Douglas, thank you.
You're confusing Lincoln and Fort
No,
Sumter.
I knew I was thinking. I knew I was wrong. I knew I was wrong. I corrected myself.
John should know this. John, come on, you're still in high school. You should know this.
Yeah, he ran for Congress and lost, then ran for Senate and lost, and then was elected president. He only was elected once.
Okay. Well, there we go. There's the answer right there.
I didn't use Google at all for that.
Right there is a perfect reason to let people let John in. Right there. Okay.
He just saved us. He got our facts right. He's like a human walking Wikipedia.
Exactly. So anyway, so we'll see what happens. Basically, the South Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong, John, had a number of. I mean, it's a very religious state, right? A lot of Catholics there. Is that true or not true? Anybody?
Florida, Carolina?
Florida?
What did you say? Florida or South Carolina?
South Carolina.
Florida's too big. It's not like Iowa where you can pigeonhole it and say it's a conservative religious state. Florida has so many different parts.
Religious state.
Huh?
Is it a religious state or not?
Florida?
South Carolina.
I don't think so.
South Carolina was last week's news.
I know, but what I'm asking is it a religious state or not?
It's conservative, but I wouldn't view it as a religious.
In other words, I'm trying
to
the
Republican primary, like I would New Hampshire or Iowa rather.
What I'm trying to say
is
that
South Carolina is considered a pretty Southern Baptist state.
In other words,
more
it's not a Mormon
than
state.
religious compared to Iowa. Go ahead, Oleg, from the
I was just trying to make a point.
Dictator.
They are. I heard that there was a lot of evangelicals in South Carolina.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think it's pigeonholed that way, and less so would be Florida.
Well, I think that's actually an interesting question. No, Dan, interesting question though, Dan. I can tell you that certainly around here, the reporting of South Carolina tilted them as a religiously conservative as well as politically conservative. And it's interesting that from a Virginian point of view, you would see it differently, and I can kind of understand that. But it's interesting.
Well, you're in New York.
Sorry, Oleg, go ahead.
The point I was trying to make that if it really is evangelical, and then Romney lost there, and he was supposedly the guy who most Republicans want to go for, then that would explain the loss in there. And then Florida, which is not an evangelical state by any stretch, and it's a more independent swing state, then we will see if Romney wins then most likely Gingrich will have a tough time going forward, in my view.
Any predictions on Florida? Peter, what's your prediction on Florida? Gingrich, Romney, Santorum, or Paul?
Ron Paul.
Yeah,
that makes no sense. It's just you've got one guy has this lifestyle that's out of control to the conservative family values base.
Who?
And then no, go ahead.
No, I'm asking you who. You said one guy has this lifestyle that's out of control. Who?
Newt, come on.
Newt.
Why is that out of control?
Ask
Newt
God for
loses big time
forgiveness
on
and,
family values.
Yeah, Newt obviously loses on family values. I mean, that's a whole nother
because he had a
point.
divorce.
No,
He had
because
two
of the open
divorces and 2
relationship.
affairs.
Yeah.
According to a angry wife, ex-wife, of course, Ronald Reagan, who's fairly popular in the conservative movement, was also, a guy who broke the divorce glass ceiling.
No, but I don't understand why is that. I mean, you don't look at Clinton. Look at JFK, for God's sake.
I mean, Clinton
what
got
does
a
that
blowjob
do
in the
with
White
president?
House, and
They're both
Woodard got
Democrats. The
reelected.
Democrats don't care about that, but that's the conservative base. It's all about family
true,
values.
But Clinton got literally got a blowjob in the White House, and pardon me for all my under 18
Dan, what are
viewers.
you doing? We got John here. What are you doing, Dan?
No. But then he would have gotten reelected a third term but for the 22nd Amendment, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure, and
healthiest
you got to
economy
remember, the man who is... No, I'm with Peter on this one. Newt loses big time on family values, and the top Republicans are pushing that hard right now.
Okay, fine. So he uses in that. Okay, next point.
Okay, so we'll go with Romney, who's all, because he's a Mormon, he's all family values.
Right. And he's got a ton of money.
And Obama used his
well, no, there's a
healthcare
contradiction in there, Dan. There's a contradiction in there. Is you have Newt that has some family value issues. Okay, so the people that don't like Newt are the conservative Christians with family values.
Right.
So how do you expect the conservative Christians to pick a Mormon?
That's the thing, and I don't think that the family value thing lasted any long because it was, I mean, like I said, like with Hillary or with the Clintons, you know them already. So like when you discover things about them that are flaws, it's okay, but he's also done these other things. It's not like they're being introduced as a serial murderer, right? So everyone has known Newt for 20 years. We've known Newt for 20 or 30 years.
But you're talking about
why did he get pushed out of the Congress, Dan?
Because he was erratic or whatever. I don't know. Because
no. There was some sort of telephone conversation that the character from Washington State, were so.
There was the ethics investigation and the election result and blah blah blah, but everyone has known Newt since 1980 when he used to rail against the banking thing. Jim Wright. Speaker Jim Wright.
I don't know if that was the big thing was Country with America. That was the big thing.
That was his national prominence, but among Republican circles, he was known for being a backbencher, just going on C-SPAN for hours railing against Speaker Wright, and eventually dethroned him, and that's what propelled him to prominence. And then he organized, much like here in Virginia, Vance Wilkins, who was a delegate, and just kept organizing people, and they eventually took over the state legislature here in Virginia. I think there's when you're a known quantity and you have a scandal, it has much less of an impact than when you're being introduced as a scandal-ridden.
You mean like Cain, for example?
Who?
Like Cain, Herman Cain.
Exactly. If Herman Cain had run 4 years ago and we all knew him, and we were evaluating him in that context, like, okay, here's Cain back again, and then, it turns out that, he screwed all of his employees, then, that's a different thing.
Okay, so replace sex with dollar signs, go back to Mitt Romney, and you've got a guy that has a large plurality of his assets in the Cayman Islands and Swiss bank accounts.
Right.
There's a problem either way. I mean,
each one has his own problems, right?
He had a good answer to that tonight. He said it was a blind trust and that they did this for a while and that it was all reported and there's no big deal. So the whole, Canary
it doesn't matter.
Islands
it causes
thing,
distrust, Dan, in the base, though.
True, among superficial observers, but if you actually listen to his argument, it makes sense. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying he had a great answer in the debate tonight when he said it was a blind trust and it was for a while. And he did that. The guy administering the trust had some money in that account, but it was all paid. Taxes were paid. It was transparent. There was nothing hidden. It just was an investment, just like if he had invested in Sony in Japan.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, John, just for the record, this was before you were born, so don't get too lost.
Poor John,
what I say.
The tears.
I say Mitt Romney wins in the Panhandle.
I agree with
take the rest
Mr.
of the
McDermott
state.
here.
Which Mr. McDermott?
I refuse to say. I take the fifth on that one.
It doesn't matter. He'll agree with them.
I wish Newt actually did win. I like him better than Romney, but I agree with Peter that I think Romney's going to take Florida, and I think that's going to be the momentum for him to just basically get, on one hand, you look at, is it possible to get away from the family values and still get through, and for a conservative, and if you look at somebody like, who would be a good example? Clarence Thomas. There's an example of somebody who can actually get through. I mean, he did.
Well, and if it's not the
Clarence
family
Thomas.
value things, here's the thing. Florida, I don't think plays into the family values as much as the Midwest does or South Carolina does.
Right.
Florida plays into dollar signs, and let's not be let's not forget about that. So I think there's actually going to be a lot of respect from the people in Florida of what Mitt was doing with his money. I mean, these are people in their retirement trying to stretch every dollar for everything it's worth. And they're seeing him try different things with money. Just based on that, I would see Mitt carrying Florida.
Well, it's one thing. Another thing, Peter, is the economy. It's right now the economy being in the state that it is, and Obama being unable to do anything since he inherited the problem, quote unquote. People definitely are looking for somebody who knows how to make the economy better, i.e., somebody who can run a business well, and that's certainly Romney. I mean, if you look at examples of all of them, he did better than everybody else did.
Right, yeah.
So that's another plus from that standpoint for him. Yeah, I don't see Santorum going anywhere at all.
But I'll tell you what, if Newt wins, at least we'll have space colonies.
I'm looking at the last polls here. Gingrich was ahead up until about the 22nd, 23rd of January. And now I see, then it got to tie, and then I see from the 24th forward till today, every single poll is Romney.
Yeah, because of these attacks. I mean, all these attacks you were talking about, I mean, they're taking their toll, clearly.
Oh, yeah. I see Rasmussen, Insider Advantage, Monmouth Survey, CNN Time, Chamber of Commerce poll. Every single one of them shows Romney ahead.
Plus, another thing is that more people are looking at Romney, I think, partially. In addition to that, because he's more, what's the word? He's more toward the center. He's not as, quote-unquote, radical as Newt would be. And so for a lot of Republicans, I think, or conservatives, that's also like, you cannot get a guy who is that, we like right-wing, we are right-wing, but if we put a right-wing guy, that means nobody on the left, in independents, are not going to vote for the guy. So we're going to lose the election anyway. So if that's the case, it makes sense logically to look for somebody who is a little more towards the center, and that would be Romney. That would not be Newt.
I disagree completely with that analysis. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about, of the bad options we have, this is the least risky.
So you're talking the lesser of two evils at this point.
It's always
already in Florida.
It's the safest option. He's the less likely to say something crazy or screw it up of the bad options we have.
On the other hand, I agree with Newt that he is the guy who would definitely take on Obama in terms of debates much better than Romney could ever do. So now there's that as well.
Well, now, have you heard the accusation of Gingrich talking about appointing Palin to the cabinet?
No, I haven't heard about that. Plus, I think it's just accusation based on nothing.
Well, no. And apparently in an interview on CNN, he said that if elected, he would definitely have a high office for Sarah Palin, which is an ethics violation of anybody running for that office. But
why is that?
Yeah, making political promises while you're still in the election is a federal offense.
Gotcha.
But he didn't make any specifics on it, so it was never pursued.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Newt was ahead by 12 in South Carolina, right? So they're at dead heat right now, seeing what I'm seeing. But yeah, I mean, Dan, sadly you are right. It is the lesser of two evils. He's less likely to fly off the handle. Less scandalous in the family values, even though he's not Christian. That's something they'll have to deal with.
Well, Dan, I do disagree with you. I know you disagree with me, but I disagree back with you. Because also there's, I think, 3% or something, there is a Jewish vote in Florida that those guys come out in droves from what I've read in terms of voting, and they're going to go for somebody who is a little more to the center because most of them are left-wing anyway.
Right. Yeah. They're socially liberal and financially conservative, and yeah.
All right, let me read a couple of comments from a viewer here. This is George again in the Netherlands. He said, aren't they all debated out yet because all they're doing is debating themselves into a corner and 4 more years of opposition? He said, if Gingrich is the candidate, all the Democrats have to do is get President Clinton on TV and remind America that not so long ago under him there was a surplus and that Gingrich was the guy that created problems then. He was the outraged speaker while secretly behaving worse than the president. Valid point, except on the money stuff, because really there wasn't a surplus if you count Social Security.
But Gingrich was the one who was pushing the whole thing that brought the surplus. The whole thing.
I'm going to let you guys get in on this, but the last thing here, and then I'm going to leave it. Why do people always say conservatives and family values in the same sentence? Do liberals have no family values?
That's been the accusation, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an accusation.
Y'all beat it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pee, and I'll be right back.
Are you allowed to say that now?
Not in front of John again. I mean, come on, guys.
It's not in the. I checked the new Google's tubes, the Google Terms of Service.
Go. We don't want any accidents.
The interweb tube. Yeah. The Alaska senator told me.
Don't go wet your pig. Go pee.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
So now that Dan McDermott is gone, we're going to hijack the show. We're going to talk about highly inappropriate things. And
it's now the Peter McDermott show.
No, it's McDermott show. It's still McDermott.
It's still the McDermott show. Yeah, still the McDermott report. How about that?
Yeah. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, so John, let's go to you and get off this politic thing because I don't like discussing that in the main publics of the inner tubes. So, John, you are a teenager here on Google+, and we're talking earlier about the whole debate about how we felt, and I think we spawned into this political debate before you got to put your 10 cents in. So, and that's 2 cents for everyone else here. So, tell us, how do you feel about adults having possibly the capability to censor what's visible to you as a minor?
I think it's basically the same thing I said before, that you can set your privacy policy to whatever you want to set it to, and if you want to, well, are those the new settings that you can specifically say, I want to set this as public, but I don't want anybody under 18 to be able to see it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there is no such thing, but I suggested what if there were to see what would transpire. So I'm just trying to think how you on the other side of that issue feel.
Well, it's another, I don't know. I'm torn on it because you should be able to set your privacy settings to whatever you want, but then again, if you're just blocking out what possibly somebody could get on and comment, I don't know. I'm torn on it because...
He's almost 18. He's almost an adult.
Let me ask a better question for you, John. Do you actually trust these adults to be running this social network?
As far as what issue?
I mean, you've got all of these adults here, and obviously up till now, all they've seemed to be able to do is post cat pictures. So, I mean, clearly they don't know. Clearly they don't know what they're doing with this. Clearly they don't understand the power that they have here. You know, here we finally got a bunch of teenagers showing up. Do you think that your generation can teach these foolish adults what to do with their social network?
Yeah, I think they can because of the new Google Plus meme creator.
Exactly.
I think that'll do
favorite features.
So you think the meme generator is the key to the Google Plus success story?
Absolutely.
Along with antlers, right? No?
Along with what?
Antlers?
Yeah, the antlers. Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah.
And there you have it, folks, the future of Google+.
Yeah. From cat gifs to memes, we've really upgraded.
Okay, next topic, Peter. Come on.
Yeah, so now we are going to move into something that's been striking the news lately, and this is a story coming to us from CNN about hundreds of tacos that were sent to a Connecticut mayor.
Oh, God. They didn't. Really?
They did, yes.
Oh, my God.
Some 500 tacos were delivered to his office Thursday after a Latino activist group called Junta for Progressive Action launched a Text for Tacos campaign to draw attention to the comment, which Maduro later apologized for. Apparently, the Connecticut mayor delivered an errant comment about eating tacos to support East Haven Latinos, some of whom were the alleged victims of police mistreatment. Apparently, Joseph Maduro Jr., the mayor there, got his wish, the 500 tacos, which were delivered to his office. Talking about self-censorship and watching what you can say, clearly there can be ramifications for making racial slurs like that. Dan McDermott is back in the room to switch us back on to a more poignant topic. Dan.
No, it's cool. Go ahead.
All right, let's transition over to our latest stories here coming from The Wire. This from Fark.com. Size of women's clothing are meaningless and have gone insane. Now, this is actually a very interesting story, and it's about consumer sympathy. Different retailers. This is a pretty interesting story. You know, this has been going on for years. But, you know, a size 6 in one store could be a size 10 in another store, and certain retailers are more sympathetic towards their customer base, making bigger clothing seem smaller to their customers so they can feel better about their image.
It's a scam. It's a scam. They've always done this. Yeah, they'll say it's a 30-inch or something. It's really not. It's 34 inches, but they call it 30 inches.
So you're telling me I'm really a 58, not a 36?
Oh, well, go ahead.
He's killing the show, Dan.
What do you guys think of the JCPenney approach?
I don't know what that means.
Retail. Let's talk. I mean, this is it's Thursday night. You know.
Well, since my favorite relative's wives just started working for them, I think it's a wonderful idea what they're doing.
No, I read your post on it. The only thing that came to my mind is that you equated JCPenney and Walmart. And I'm not sure they would have appreciated that comparison.
I agree, but I went there today, and I'm going to do a post. I like Levi's. I wear Levi's 514 whatever jeans, right?
Oh, great! So now we're becoming a fashion show.
Yeah, 527.
First of all,
I looked at the price model, and they said they're going to do everyday low prices starting February 1st. And I went there, and I went to Kohl's and to Belk. And
Kohl's is a scam.
Kohl's is an utter scam.
They're all a scam. I mean, they say...
Well, not like Kohl's.
Correct. But Kohl's has the best deal if you look at the internet coupon that they have. So I went and I looked.
What's Kohl's?
They're phasing in their prices already at JCPenney. For anyone watching who doesn't know what I'm talking about, JCPenney made this big announcement that they're going to have everyday low prices, which sounds a lot like Walmart. Instead of
sound a lot like Walmart. It sounds exactly like Walmart.
It's a scam. It's a scam. I went there. I looked at their prices. They've been rolling them out for 3 weeks. I talked to several clerks at the stores. I didn't tell them I was a reporter, so I'm not going to name anybody. I was just having a conversation. And I looked, and basically the jeans I get are Levi's 514, slim straight, 32-inch, whatever. And they are $40 everywhere. And so I went to Kohl's, and they had a sale, quote-unquote sale, buy one, get one half off. And they had the retail list price, which is some fictitious price that no one ever pays, $54. And so you buy one, it's $54, and then you buy the second one half off, so it's $27. And together it's $81 for 2 pairs, so it's $40.50 a piece. Then I went to Belk, and it was $39.99, so again, $40 for a pair of jeans. And then I went to JCPenney, and I have a picture I'm going to share. I just haven't done the post yet because I was prepping for John's show. and it was $40. They said they're not going to do 99 cent, $9.99. They're going to say $10, blah blah blah, and they're going to have everyday low prices. But I went there and it's the same thing. It's $40 for a pair of jeans. So there's no difference. And then they said that we're not going to have sales anymore. And all the clerks said, well, come on the first and the third Friday of each month when people get paid, and we're going to have, special. So it's a scam. It's a marketing scam. And I'm going to do.
So Dan, is there price fixing going on between all of these clothing retailers? Should we do an I-team investigation?
No, it's this whole thing about this stupid. I hate this. You have to work to buy something instead of just having reasonable prices. Everyone's got some gimmick going on, and you have to have. It's a scam. It's marketing.
It's not a scam. It's called marketing. Anyway.
Well, no, Dan. If we're talking all these retailers are getting into this price matching.
You have to put this in context, okay? Number one, what you didn't say was that JCPenney recently got the guy who used to design Apple stores.
I'm listening. I'm multitasking. I've got two things.
You already went. What are you talking about?
I'm listening.
Okay. Anyway, so JCPenney got this guy. I don't remember the guy's name. Memory is not there anymore like it used to be. But John should remember. John, do you know the guy's name?
I saw the article, and I'll know it in a minute.
Okay, so John does this stuff the academic way. Anyway, so they got this guy who used to design Apple stores, which of course have been incredibly well received by the public, where people actually sleep and urinate next to them. And sorry, John. And but anyway, since they were so popular, I think JCPenney is trying to use the guy to redo their image, and I think to deal with prices. I mean, nothing wrong with announcing they're going to have lower prices, and it's not gimmick. I mean, you can look at it. Anything would be a gimmick. If you look at every sale being a gimmick, then all of the businesses out there do gimmicks. I mean, nothing but gimmicks because everybody does sales all the time. It's just a given. I used to have a website in a local mall here a number of years ago where I would just show the sales that are going on right now at that mall. It's like the happening mall, one of the best considered malls in the country, called Bellevue Square. And it was amazing to me that on a daily basis, practically every store had some sort of sale going on. It's like a non-stop. I mean, they had the Mother's Day, the Valentine's Day, the Wednesday day, the one day. They come up with anything you can imagine, and they had sales. So it's not anything different. I don't know why Dan is so opposed to them using sale as in low prices. I mean, that's how you entice people to come in. But I think they're doing this with this guy.
I have no problem with sales, but be honest about it. I understand how it works, right? I used to have restaurants and I had a retail place, and I understand how it works. But I hate the whole daily deal coupon craze, and you've got to do all this work.
But that's what people like. You see how popular Groupon is?
I understand, but then you've got to do all this work, and then those of us who don't have the time or the inclination or could give a crap about it, we all subsidize those who, scour the internet and find the.
Right. Apparently, you're the 1%.
Treat it as a game.
Dan, that's the problem.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I should have called it an evening about an hour or 4 ago, so I'm going to take off.
I can't believe you're leaving on the JCPenney topic. I mean, this is.
I can't believe I've hung around. Somehow I got past the politics topic without falling asleep.
He's got black screen on, and he got sound coming in, which most of the answers were not on the ball anyway. So it's like he's not even here.
Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow night when I will have a working camera.
You will wake up by then, won't you, Alan?
Chances are possible, I guess.
Okay. Because the older people, they tend to sleep too much. All right, what happened to Peter?
Goodness. Are you going to be in bed tomorrow night, or are you going to be like in a chair?
No, I will be in my
doing it from the bathroom. He wants to
chair.
You need to get your hair did, the whole deal.
Look, just take example from John. Look at the guy. He's got beautiful stuff behind him. He looks nice.
Hey, do you have a problem with my Coke cans and bookcase?
I don't have any problem. I have a problem with the black screen. Seems like you're still stuck on SOPA. Okay?
No, at the moment it's a defective camera. Look, would you rather I turn my camera on right there? That's what you'll get if I turn it off the black screen.
Please start Minicam. I see. Well, it's the Minicam that's the problem.
All right. So, Dan, if it's okay with you, I want to exercise our fair use law here.
You're
What is
using
that?
copyrighted content there, Peter.
Yeah, it's fair use, though, because we're talking about JCPenney's.
And SOPA. What's the picture there?
It falls under fair use. We're commentating news. So
Oh, there we go. It's funny.
Right?
I first, Peter, when I clicked on it, it showed your profile picture, and then I finally saw Robert Stack and.
Dan, it's up to you. I'll leave it up to you.
Looks cool.
That was a great movie.
Can I hit play here, Dan? Under fair use?
No.
It's fair use.
No, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get
It's
flat.
fair
No,
use.
fine.
Come on, know your copyright law.
No, we don't want to push our limits here.
Oh, man. I'm done with you.
Should we crank up the Russian movie, the humor movie?
I'm done with you.
Oh, my God.
I'm off, guys. Have a good evening.
Take care,
All
Ron.
right,
Take care.
thanks.
Yeah, good luck.
Be seeing you.
For those who don't know, that was The Prisoner. Now that we have pseudonyms in place, right?
John's getting the full immersion into the Google Plus week. Here.
He's speechless, obviously.
Something like that.
Wait till we start telling Russian jokes, John. Then you really.
John, as you get to know everybody with the last name McDermott, you will notice one thing. We cannot shut our mouths.
You've been very quiet this evening. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I have been. I'm just trying to patronize Dan, that's all.
By the way, who is this advertiser of yours, Queechy?
That's actually a city I used to live in. Not a city. It's a very small resort town in Vermont where I used to live.
Interesting. Okay.
You know what's funny, Peter, you were talking about the tacos, and it reminds me of in the Vietnam War, I did a post, I was speculating about the new White House page, because if you look at if you look at any of the White House official Twitter accounts, in the description it says this is an official Twitter account of the White House, and any replies or mentions or whatever will be archived in the National Archives as part of the official White House records, right?
Right, of course. Any communication with the White House will.
Well, what's interesting is, does that mean that if you post a comment on the official White House Google Plus page, and you say something like, you know, F Obama or whatever, and they delete it, do they have to keep a record of that? Can they delete it?
I think they would.
Now, Dan, if you leave that comment,
are available for that? How could they logistically? How could they do that? And this harkens back to the Vietnam days when the draft boards had to keep all the records. And one of my teachers told me when I was in high school, who was a Vietnam a guy who defused bombs, but he was in the Vietnam War. He said that the draft boards would get all kinds of crazy stuff in the mail because they had to keep all correspondence. People would mail like 4x8 sheets of plywood and just put stamps on them and just send them in, and boxes of, you know, an anvil, whatever, just crazy stuff, because they had to keep all correspondence for the permanent record. I mean, it's kind of crazy. The taco thing is obviously over the top, but it's interesting how people can exploit the fact that government bodies have to retain all correspondence no matter what it is. I mean, you could send them a bag of cotton candy or feces or whatever, and they have to retain it because it's part of the official record. Where do you store that? You know, a dead fish. I mean, what do you do with it? You know, it's a whole. People push the limits to make a point as a method of protest. So it's kind of it's a new thing, but it's not really a new thing because this kind of thing has happened in the past.
Yeah, John, just for reference for you so you understand what we're talking about, it's like the Iraq War except earlier, the Vietnam War.
Okay, got it.
Oh,
Thanks for clarification.
That's the grossest oversimplification I think I've ever heard in my life.
It's a Russian, you know, what do you expect from a former Russian?
Yeah, true. Do you know what's funny, though? Something I was never taught in school is that you guys landed on the moon. They kind of neglected to tell us that.
They neglected to tell us that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that actually happened. I mean, I don't know if they actually...
They didn't land on the moon. They had Sputnik. They had the first satellite.
Well, they had the first guy in space, but
Yeah, but they didn't just have Sputnik. They had Sputnik flying over the United States, broadcasting in Russian across the United States, which freaked everyone out. I mean, it was a big.
It's
big
easy
deal.
to freak out people in America. Look at Orson Welles. I mean, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, but that was a motivator for us, to get somebody on the moon, which that's a whole thing. I mean, like Gingrich is all about that and stuff, but the space program. I mean, does it make sense? I mean, is there anything to be gained? I mean, there's knowledge to be gained in science, but it's a tremendous expense, and that's a big debate now, whether we should spend money to colonize the moon or go back to the moon. Is there life on the moon? That's a whole thing. It's so expensive to do that, but it's kind of like I mean, I imagine everyone in this room right now is a Star Trek fan.
Absolutely.
And so we're excited about that whole notion
You're not,
of
Peter?
a potential future like that.
No.
So what are you a fan of? Are you a fan of Star Wars?
Yes, I'm a geek, not a nerd.
I see. Okay.
Well.
Way
to kill the mood, Peter.
Wow. Wow.
John, what do you weigh in? Star Trek or Star Wars? 5-second answer.
Star Wars.
Man.
No, in other words, you're saying you like Star Wars better than Star Trek, or you don't like Star Trek with Peter?
I would say more. Star Wars more.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just think Star Trek's stupid.
Okay, hey Dan, I think we should kind of limit the amount of time.
Dude, 5,000 people just encircled me. Wow.
Exactly.
Bye.
Exactly.
I definitely think we should have an under 30 limit. How old are you, Peter?
I'll be 27 on Sunday.
Definitely 28 and under banned from any.
We should do a roast of Peter on Sunday, Dan. We should do a first Hangout roast like they do on TV.
Oh my
Peter.
God.
Oh my God.
If I could roast Peter? Are you serious?
I'll tell you what, Dan, I could get some people together. My girlfriend, I got to drop her off at the airport on Saturday. She's going to Phoenix. I'm going to be home alone with nothing to do on my birthday. And I'm strapped because I'm flying up to Manhattan next week to go up there for the hurl. So that would be a fun thing to do.
Absolutely. Look, the guy's giving us gold here. His girlfriend is leaving him right before his birthday. I mean, all kinds of materials are coming out here.
Oh my God.
27.
The possibilities.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
10 more years, John. And you'll be as old as Peter.
John, what was the most interesting conversation you had this week?
This week?
Yeah.
This one, obviously.
Yeah, by far, hands down. I don't know.
About anything, not tech or politics or whatever, like at school or. I mean, are you in high school still?
Yes.
No, he's in his graduate program. Come on, Dan. Doogie Howser over here.
Like what's going on? What's the biggest controversy at your school?
Well, I'm actually homeschooled, so there's not a lot
There we go.
controversy.
Excellent. Homeschool, excellent. See, that explains the Legos. At 17 years old, the guy plays with Legos.
I know you're not going to diss one of our first legal minors on the.
Wait a minute. I'll go get my Legos, and you can shut up.
You go, Peter.
You're just trying to get me out of here.
Oh my goodness. Do they have Legos in Russia?
No.
They're not allowed.
At least they didn't have it when I left. I don't know what they have now. They probably have now. But.
They have atheist Legos in Russia.
Yeah, they have those little Matryoshka dolls. Remember those little dolls that go one into each other? And the coolest one I had was with all these different Russian rulers. They had Stalin, they had Lenin, then they have Stalin, then they have Brezhnev, then they have Gorbachev, and then they had Putin. That was pretty funny. I actually wanted to get my hands on one of those, but I could never get it. Although I think you probably could find it online. So that's what kids over there play with, in addition to guns.
So, Dan, here's an interesting thing. There's legislation that's about to be passed that would allow people to carry their firearms in their vehicle to the workplace regardless of the workplace policy on firearms.
Oh, open carry or concealed?
It would depend on the individual state laws, but basically it would be a federal ban on businesses prohibiting people from bringing their concealed carry or open carry weapons to the workplace and leaving them stowed in their car.
This is the whole thing. Like, it's a legitimate question because the Second Amendment, in my opinion, says you have a right to bear arms. But then, as soon as you say that, does that mean you have a right to keep, say, a surface-to-air missile? You know.
Well, you guys, you have to have those in Russia, right? You're required to have one.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
we carry them, you know, like sandwiches.
No, but seriously, that's a legitimate question. Should you be allowed to have a nuclear weapon if you can figure out how to make one? Well, but I mean, if it's an absolute right according to the NRA, you can't. So where do you draw the line, right? And that's a tricky question because the only stipulation, the only point of contention in the Second Amendment is the whole mention of a militia being necessary, and so the opponents of the right to keep and bear arms say that means that, like, the National Guard should be allowed to have them, but not the regular people. And the proponents of gun rights say no, it means anybody, you know, that's incidental, and you can have arms. So it's a serious question, and if you take it to its logical conclusion, you should be allowed to have a surface-to-air missile, nuclear weapons, a nuclear reactor, you know, whatever you want.
No, but I mean, they even prohibit assault. I mean, what do they call these weapons? Remember when Clinton was in power? A ban on assault weapons of some sort, didn't they?
Yeah, but really, you could buy the same thing that didn't look like an M16 or an AK-47, and it was fine if it looked like a hunting rifle at the same power and velocity. But if it was called an assault weapon or something, then they would ban it. I mean, it was silly. It didn't really have any effect except to appease, you know, the gun control advocates. But it's a serious thing. Like, should you be allowed to have a surface-to-air missile? Yes or no? If you have a straight-up Second Amendment freedom, then you should.
No, but I mean, you're going to, you know, kind of a totally overboard on this. If you're talking about just what Peter is saying, it means the guy can actually bring a weapon to work and put it on the table. And I just
No. Stop. Time out. Most employers and most Fortune 500 employers in the United States have bans that prevent people, regardless of state laws, from bringing their weapons into the workplace.
Right.
Okay? As part of that provision, the parking facility in which the worker parks his vehicle is 9 times out of 10 on that employer's property. Therefore, the employer's policy on weapons, which is extremely strict and, you know, immediate termination, law enforcement notified.
Yeah.
If you park your vehicle on their property, you're not allowed to have your weapon in their vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So what the law does is tells employers, you can still keep your ban on weapons, but they can leave it in their car.
I think that's reasonable. I think you have a right to control your private property. You also have a right to have to protect yourself. And we looked at that situation in Europe where that guy killed all those people for hours.
Yeah.
And if any of those people had been armed, they would have stopped them. Here in Virginia, we had the Virginia Tech massacre, and there was a ban. I think teachers could not have a gun on them at their workplace at that state university. If any of those teachers had access to a weapon in their classroom, they might have stopped that guy, and lives would have been saved. Now, the argument against that is that you have 18, 19-year-olds with potential access to a weapon, and all hell could break loose. So you can go either way on that argument. But I think you have a right to carry a weapon. but I think you also have a right, if you own property, to control access on that property. If I open a business and I pay the rent or the mortgage on that building, I have a right to, and I pay you to work for me, I have a right to say whether or not you can enter my property with your gun.
But that's not what Peter is saying.
Property.
Peter is saying that the property is the property belongs to the company.
The parking lot is a different thing. That's a gray area. I'm not sure how it would weigh on.
No, it's not a gray area. It's black and white. It's very black and white. The parking lot, if it belongs to the employer, any of the employer's laws go to it. If you decide to park off property, then that doesn't apply to you.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, you park on the employer's property, even if it's leased, because they're the leasee. They're considered to maintain that property.
Which logically doesn't make any sense. What sense is it that you can keep the weapon in your car? How is it helping you? I don't understand why they're even pushing for that.
Well,
I think this is a non-issue, Peter, because A, how would the employer know what you had in your car? B, the employer, I mean, you can choose whether or not to work for that employer, and if you don't like the rules that they stipulate, you can choose not to work for them. And they have a right to control. I mean, I could say you cannot bring a weapon in your vehicle, period, on my property, and I can enforce that, but it's a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. I mean, I could simply kick you off the property if you had one.
But what happens if somebody gets hurt? Isn't the employer liable then if it's on their parking garage?
No, they wouldn't have negligence if it was banned. No, there'd be no negligence there. I'm not a lawyer, by the way. To anyone watching, I'm not a lawyer.
I don't know. I mean,
looks like one.
This is a good question, but I would think, how would that be enforceable? How would you even know?
It'll be difficult.
Well, no, it's an ethics thing, Dan. It's an ethics thing. It's not something that is enforceable. It's not something that's discoverable.
No, but Peter, do you know why they're pushing for this? What is it going to give them? I don't understand why they're trying to put it in.
Well, it gives people. Okay, so here's the deal. If you're a concealed weapons permit carrier and you've taken all the provisions, spent all the money to get your concealed weapon and be able to use it for your self-protection,
right.
The one place you go 5 days a week, as soon as you leave home, is to the workplace.
Right.
So if taking your vehicle to the workplace means that you can't have your weapon in your vehicle, then you have to return back to your home to get your weapon. Most cases of carjackings and muggings take place near the vehicle.
I see. Okay, because I was going to say, you're working not in your vehicle, so how is that helping you? But I guess, yeah.
It doesn't help you in the workplace. It helps you from on your way there and then what you do after you leave.
Gotcha.
I wanted to feel you guys out on that. That was, wow, you guys are very passionate.
No, just interesting. That's an interesting topic.
It's almost a non-issue, like this thing that came out where some congressman has a bill to say that you can't use an aborted fetus in a food product. Like, who the hell is doing that? Who would buy such a food product? I mean, that's just totally random out there, like some crazy thing.
You should write an article for HuffPo about that.
They already they wrote an article about it. But it's just like crazy. Like, where's that from? It's left field. But yeah, you have a point about carjackings being in the vehicle.
Oh, new front page from HuffPo just came over. Feudin in Florida.
Did you say Putin?
Feudin.
Oh, okay.
Just got the pictures from the debate up.
Yeah, there we go. Shaking hands. Santorum wants peace.
Oh,
and
like
this guy's pointing fingers.
Russia's getting more and more like the old Soviet Union, aren't they?
Unfortunately so, Dan. Unfortunately.
It's sad.
It is.
They have so much potential, but I see rampant corruption.
Yep.
I remember when the Soviet, Oleg, you and I are both, old enough to remember when the Soviet Union busted up and the years under them. I remember someone said they made the observation when the wall first fell and all that stuff was going on. It was so exciting a time, but someone made the sober observation. They said, remember that the Soviet Union controlled many, many powder kegs that will explode once this blanket is gone.
And they did, yeah,
And
unfortunately.
boy, that was so true.
Yep.
Just like in Iraq, Saddam was a brutal dictator, but he also controlled a lot of animosity among, disparate groups. It's
Not just
really
that,
fascinating.
he also was the guy who kept the attention of Iran away from where it is now. So there was a couple of things that were positive about Hussein, if you really look at it.
And women had many rights. I mean, they could drive a car and they could work, work and do things that, like in Saudi Arabia,
Right.
a U.S. ally, a man can just, say I divorce you 3 times and they're divorced and the woman has no rights to the kids.
No, it's pretty
nothing.
bad, yeah.
They execute you if you look the wrong way. I mean, it's a disaster. So, the U.S. ally. So yeah, it's
no, but Soviet Union, yeah. I mean, not to say that I want Soviet Union back. I certainly do not want to see anything near, remotely to Soviet Union. So,
correct.
John, when you go to school, whatever school you're going to go next, and people teach you about socialism like it's a good thing, don't believe it. It's not. But seriously, though, yeah. I mean, it's kind of coming back to that whole thing. And Putin is an ex-KGB guy, and so he knows exactly how that scenario works out. And, he's had power before, he wants it back, and people, life like in Ukraine, where I'm from originally, is horrible for people, just absolutely horrid. I mean, they have no idea what they're doing in terms of economy, in terms of, you have a really tiny minority. See, let's talk about Soviet Union, and Dan has to go to the bathroom again. This tiny minority of people who control pretty much everything. And it's not supposedly a dictatorial regime, but for the most part, I mean, you can say that it really is. And they're not a superpower they used to be, but they still have a ton of nuclear weapons. They still have some serious brain power over there, like they used to have. I mean, they've always said that, and it's just not a good thing. It's not a good thing what they're doing. And I've always been of an opinion that if U.S. and Russia would actually put together their efforts, then I think most of the world's ills could go away. But that's not the case. For whatever reason, the Russians remain anti-American. Not the population in general, but the official mantra of the country. And we have what we have.
Let me ask you something. This is really prescient to me because the United States has, and this is a big thing with Ron Paul, exporting our version of democracy. I mean, you grew up in the Soviet Union, and you emigrated to the United States, 30 years ago?
34, yeah.
So the thing is, there's this argument that we can't export our version of democracy. It doesn't work everywhere. And I agree with that. Like in Afghanistan, there are places that have a 90% illiteracy rate, and they're indoctrinated, and they absolutely are not at all interested, nor could they be expected to, with a 90% illiteracy rate, really be able to grasp some of the concepts of democracy.
It's not just that. It's not just that, Dan. It's just the way Americans are. I mean, it's hard for me to explain in words, but everybody who came here who I know who are normal people, because a lot of people who came here are not normal. I mean, the people that should be, I would send back 90% of Russians if it was up to me, back to where they came from. But normal people that came here and got assimilated, we talked about today that part of the problem with, like what Newt was talking about and being blamed for, I'm sorry, it wasn't Newt, it was Buchanan. Buchanan got fired from MSNBC for this book he wrote where he says that, the problem is America is being engulfed, if you will, with all these people from all over the world, and these people are not assimilating like the immigrants used to do in the old days, and that's why you have what you have with all kinds of problems here. And I agree with the guy. I totally agree with the guy on that. And so what we're looking at right now is, when people come here, for example, from Russia, I mean, I'm just using my family as an example, you immediately, I mean, I was totally into America from even before I got here. I was, big time into music. American music was tops, and, being a kid, I was even younger than John right now at the time, and, I was just in heaven. When I got to America, I didn't know anything about politics, anything about anything else, but I was into, I could actually listen to the Beatles finally, even though it's not an American group, but you know what I mean. And what happened afterwards is when I got assimilated to the whole culture here and the way of life and everything else, then it became very clear that people that come from abroad can get used to a better life very, very quickly. But this better life was built over the last 300 years by people who came here and made it so. It's not anything that was just, right there. And when you go to other countries, you cannot create the same experience. I posted the other day a picture from Whole Foods of their pastry section, and I've been here for twice as long as John's alive, and I'm still amazed that you walk into a store and you look over there and you just cannot believe your eyes how much variety is there. One of our children is ill, and so she's on a gluten-free diet, and you walk into these sections of Whole Foods, and there is unbelievable variety of gluten-free foods. And you just look at them from a standpoint that they didn't have any of that even a few years ago, but now people need that kind of stuff, and people realize that they want this kind of stuff, and it's all over the place. I mean, and it's in such abundance in the distribution and the organization and how it's presented and how it's sold. It's such a far cry from everything that I've seen in just about any other country. It's mind-boggling to me, American for 25 years. I mean, not 25, 30 years now. Okay? So it's very difficult to just move all of this infrastructure like this to another country that does have corruption, that has a different government, that has a different people, in general, different kinds of people compared to Americans. Okay, I came here and a lady came to our door literally in the next couple of days after we came to the States and brought us a pie. And we were just absolutely stunned how a total stranger would walk into your house and bring you food. Over there in Russia, the only thing you're used to is somebody bumping into you. Forget about excuse me. You don't even get a smile from anybody. We walked on the streets and people come and people look at you and they smile and they say hello. And it's like, do I know this person? That was the initial reaction. Why are they saying hello to me? We're not used to that kind of deal. You understand? And this is how Americans are. I mean, it's not that they make something special. It's just the way Americans are, the way they've been for many, many years, the way they've become. And I think that's where the problem is you cannot simply transplant that because those people are not ready for that kind of, they're ready to live in that kind of life, which is why they immigrate here, but it's very difficult to create the whole infrastructure with people being as Americans over there on that end. And I think that's why it's not working so well.
Can I ask you,
you can ask me whatever
can
you
you
want.
contrast, I know you were a kid when you left. I mean, I don't know how many times you've been back, but
none. I have no interest.
You're in a progressive city in a progressive state. And so, like the gluten-free thing and having Whole Foods locally available, and you're lucky that way. And a lot of folks, even in the United States, don't have that option. But I've been to a Whole Foods, and I agree with you. It's amazing the stuff they have. And any kind of like international food market, you'll see all kinds of stuff. But Whole Foods especially, and I know Wegmans is a great place too. But tell me, if you had never left, now that you've had a chance to appreciate what we have here in the United States, what would it be like if you were still in Russia right now?
I would have a very, very sad life, I'm sure, based on my ethnicity and based on basically what I wanted to do and everything else. I would have, probably playing drums in a restaurant somewhere and trying to make a buck here and there, and that would be my life in Russia. Something like that.
As far as everyday life, that's what I'm curious about. Like,
it would be a horrible life because
what would supermarkets be like, or
supermarket? The thing is, when I was there, they didn't have practically anything. I mean, you walk into a store in the morning and you got some bread and you got some milk and things like that. If you walk into a store in the afternoon, you have nothing but bread, that basically a few pieces of bread that could be exchanged for rocks. It was so hard. You had milk that was sour. I mean, that was the reality of going to a store in the afternoon. Am I putting you to sleep, Dan?
I'm sorry. You're very observant.
Got you. And anyway, so it was just, basically very difficult. Here people say, why don't we do lunch next week? Okay? Over there you would say, hey, Dan, there's potatoes being sold on the corner of 5th and Lexington. And for lunch, you're running over there to get some potatoes so you can do dinner for your family tonight, because if you know if you're going to go to the store, you're not going to get them. That was the kind of life we had when I was there. Now, the life is dramatically different because they have everything. They have all these businesses that were started, all these stores, everything in it, from what I've heard here. The problem is people don't have any money. So I don't know what's worse, to live poorly and not have anything in the stores, or to live poorly and have all the stuff in your face and you can't buy any of it. But that's the reality right now.
My dad was a diplomat, and he went there, and he said his observation was like he'd go to a bread store, and they would have one person who would take your order, another person would pull the order, another person would bag it, another person would,
Like Starbucks, yeah.
set it here, and then another person would ring it up, and then another person would hand it to you, another person would bag it up again. I mean, that's how they did full employment, because they said, everyone was on the public dole. But
you got to understand that a lot of stuff in the stores. That's my grandpa worked in the grocery store, and the reason my grandpa lived pretty well compared to my dad, who did not. My dad was in charge of all the basically all the welding operations and ships on the river Dnieper, which is the second largest river in Russia. I believe it's the second largest, yeah, in the whole Soviet Union. Okay, huge river. And so all the welding operations done on ships there were under control of my dad. So it's a fairly happening position. He was making at the time 200 rubles a month. So kind of like, if you look at salaries now, it would be, I don't know, I would say probably $200-300 a month, basically, which of course you can't live on anything even remote to that.
Right.
And for there, it was not the lowest salary, because my mom was making $60 a month equivalent, and working full time, both of them. But my grandpa worked at the grocery store, and he was a manager there. What it meant when food would come in, the food would immediately go, whatever food came in, under the table. And then people who were in charge of the store would distribute this food accordingly. Some would go on the shelves, because they had to put something out. But a lot of the food, especially better kind of food, would go to their friends, would go to their family, would go to the other vendors that they dealt with. So if I'm in charge of a grocery store, I get some, I don't know, maybe I get some, special cheese or something. I don't put it on the shelf. I have a friend called Dan who works in a shoe store, and so I supply cheese to Dan, and in exchange, Dan comes up with shoes that came from, say, Romania or Italy or whatever, that nobody else gets to see, because he puts those shoes under the table as well. So there was this underground situation going on with people who were in these places that would live well because they would do all these exchanges, but the vast majority of the public got nothing.
Was that the birth of the corruption that's so prevalent now?
Oh, no. The corruption was there from the revolution days, from the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. Is that the reason it's kind of tolerated to the extent that it is now? Because it seems to be rampant and so blatant there. At least in America, it's like done in a more classy way. I mean,
I wouldn't call it classy. What I would say is this: in America, the idea is that you do something business-wise, try to do it better, cheaper, faster than your competitors, and that's how you get ahead. So you're doing something better for others to better yourself. That's, to me, the way I look American approach to life. In Russia,
watching what I'm talking about. I said that flippantly, but let me give
No, you're right.
Let me give a real life example. That wonderful 60 Minutes piece by Steve Croft about insider trading by members of Congress,
right,
where you can be on a committee. Let's say you're on a committee dealing with defense matters, and you learn that Boeing is going to get a contract to build, 17,000 planes.
So you buy a bunch of stock and you make a ton of money. Yeah.
Right. You can legally, absolutely legally, because Congress exempt themselves. You can legally buy a bunch of stock in Boeing, knowing this, and then when the news breaks that they're going to get this big contract, you make a fortune, you sell the stock. It's all totally legal.
Right.
There's nothing criminal about it at all because they write the laws.
No, you're right. You're right.
For us to criticize, I'm sitting here, my glass tower casting dispersions, but not really, because we're the same way. So I'm just trying to give a realistic example and draw a comparison. because it's the same thing here. And they've tried. In fact, it's
not the
gotten to
same
such
thing,
a point
Dan.
where Obama just mentioned this in his speech.
He did, but don't equate the two though. It's not the same thing then.
It's not.
Like I said,
it's not on that
what I
level.
say
but
about
I'm trying to
Americans
say
for
we're
the
not
most part.
pure. We're not pure here.
No, nobody says that Americans are pure. But at the same time, I would say that we're a hell of a lot better than anything else I've seen, especially compared to Russia. Okay? So what I was going to say was my point about Americans I already made. Let me tell you what my feeling about Russians is. And it's not just mine. The feeling in the statements was that in Russia, and of course it's also you're generalizing, it's not everybody like that, but there's a lot of that, the people would basically sell their mother for $1. In other words, they get ahead by stepping and cutting somebody else's throats. That's their approach to getting ahead. And that's the difference between the two philosophies. You're trying here to do something for others to better yourself. Over there, they're stepping on others' throats to better themselves. And that's the difference. And you cannot build a functional, well-run society, okay? Like I said, with all the flaws of America still, you cannot build a society considering, okay, looks like my son wants me back, considering the fact that that's the kind of approach you have. When Russians, which is a very educated country that had...
What's up?
You ready?
Yeah.
When they had, okay, we'll wrap it up here. We'll read the next chapter.
Feed me, Daddy. Feed me.
Yeah, no, I need to read the next chapter. We're reading this book.
Bye.
Bye, man.
Right.
Now I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Anyway, like I said, it's not impure here, and there's many problems, no question. But it's such a far departure. I mean, I would never ever even attempt to compare and put the two on the same footing to try to say, well, we got problems, they got problems. It's nothing like that. It's not, like I said, it's not even comparable. Okay? If you want an example, specific example, I'll give you a specific example. You tell me how many people immigrated outside of somebody who tried to do it like Lee Harvey Oswald. How many people immigrated from America to Russia? And then you look at how many Russians immigrated to America. That should be proof right there to you, the difference between living here and living there.
Oh, it's just interesting. I agree. And you know, but it's just when you made the point that under the Soviet system there was rampant corruption because everyone hated the leadership in the Soviet system and realized it was broken, and that's why there was so much popular support when finally, you know, the first wall broke. But I wonder if that was the precursor to set up an environment where people kind of tolerated corruption a bit more than they should have because they were all part of that under the Soviet system when it was cool to be corrupt because the Soviets were evil, right?
No. The problem is, part of the problem is also, I think part of the problem is religion. That was another problem. Is that the country basically, in my view, lacked morals because religion was pretty much, I mean, it was an atheist country. And, you know, the way I lived there for 15 years, I didn't live there that long, but this was the mantra, this is how I was brought up, is with atheist type approach to life. And I think that was, I mean, the first things when Gorbachev opened the doors, you know what the first businesses that opened up over there were? Does anybody know? John?
No.
John doesn't know. It was pawn shops. Okay? That was the first thing that happened in Russia once they opened up the door to opening their own businesses. And so that right there gives you an example of complete lack of morals, and I know everybody will debate with me whether what's moral, what's immoral, but I'm just saying it's a perfect example that people who are highly educated, it's a smart nation, it's not, you know, a bunch of dummies over there. It's not a third world country either. But the moment where they, I mean, what they do, what they did, what they continue to do is they steal stuff instead of creating stuff. You see so many on Google Plus, so many Russians that are so talented. You look at this, I think his name is Koloskov, I think his last name is one of the super photographers. The guy does photography with, I think, liquids when they're in motion, and he catches them. You know what I'm talking about, this guy? Can't remember his name. But the guy does amazing stuff. There's tons of incredible artists, tons of scientists, all kinds of stuff that they're here that do amazing stuff. I mean, this guy, Benny, the guy you introduced me from Google, Danny, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, Danny, yeah, the Hangout guy.
Exactly. he works for Google in the Hangout team, super smart guy, okay? And so they have the smarts, they have the education, they have to some degree the culture. You look at their composers, you look at their ballet, all that stuff. And yet, because of the whatever the Soviet Union did to them, the morals are completely gone. And so, like I said, this idea is to grab stuff wherever you can to get ahead, regardless of the consequences to anybody else. And to me, you can't build a society that way. You just can't.
Did you finally meet Denny?
I haven't met him physically yet. I mean, personally, even though we're being here in Kirkland, but I definitely plan to, go with the guy for coffee or something.
You're going to have the new term, the hurl, the hangout in real life.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I just heard about that last couple of days. That's funny, the hurl.
Yeah, that's what Peter said he's going to New York for. They're going to do.
Yeah, I hope you guys hook it up because it'd be fun to watch that. Yeah. I just think it's so fascinating because we both grew up, in a different country, and I've seen so many horrible things and wonderful places, and I always grew up in fear of the Soviet Union, and I think it's so cool now that we're friends,
Well, but the friendship though is not really that solid, as you can tell from this deal. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't want to get too much into it because, like I said, I got to get going. But this deal with what's going on with this missile shield, I don't quite understand what Obama is trying to do because, according to what I heard Medvedev say in Russian, I don't do translations. He was asking America to, don't put the shield in there, so we don't have escalation of problems. We'll continue with the START treaty and everything else. Obama, for whatever reason, as anti-war president as he can be, at least that's what the left in America believes, turns around and says, no, we're going to still put the shield in there. And so I wonder, and the next thing you know, the Russians are pointing, missiles in the wrong direction, so to speak. And I just don't know if this latest escalation is, just the Russians' fault, or if it's something that, it's hard to tell because it seems like all of a sudden, I don't know why Obama wouldn't necessarily go in that direction, but maybe he knows something I don't.
Look, Oleg, come on. No one thinks that Russia is going to invade the United States or vice versa. Anything like that is clearly a bargaining chip to be given up to get them to enforce some Iranian sanctions, which is a legitimate threat.
Right, I totally agree.
Anything that we do to piss off the Russians, the first thing you need to stop and think is, okay, what's the real motive here? It's to get them to back down on stuff like Syria and Iran.
Well, but I just hope it doesn't turn into Cold War #2. That's what I hope it doesn't turn into.
Correct, but, did it ever end?
Well,
where did North Korea get all the nuclear technology?
We've got this close during the deal with JFK. This close. What was going on in America at the time, how kids were practicing sitting under their desks and stuff.
Yeah.
It was unbelievably close.
Bomb shelters.
Exactly. And so I'm just saying that, and that was back in the days when weapons were nothing compared to today.
But it was different then. Now there's nothing to be gained. Nobody wants to bomb Russia now, or Russia doesn't care about bombing the United States. We're not a threat to them. It's all stuff to piss Putin off, so that we can get him to change his behavior toward tolerating just a blatant open regard for whatever the hell Syria and Iran want to do, and North Korea. Right. North Korea is not independently developing nuclear weapons, nor is Iran. They're getting help, and that's largely coming from Russia.
Right, exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So anything we can do to tweak them, we're going to do, because then we can play the North Korean game.
Yeah.
And we can back down in exchange for them behaving the way we want,
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's exactly what it is.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go read my story to my kid, and so it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Your kids are so cute.
Thank you.
My favorite moment was right in the middle of the show when one came out and said, "Feed me, I'm hungry."
That was my daughter. Anyway, John, pleasure to meet you. Thanks.
Nice talking to you.
Again. Thank you. We'll talk again.
All right, Oleg. Have a good one.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye. Yeah, I probably got to get going, too.
Yeah, I hope you weren't too too bored.
Oh, it was interesting to listen.
Yeah, this is a lot of these guys were regular Google Plus Week people, and you know, it gets heated during the show. This was just a hangout, but like during the show, it's more formal, you know. But they get into it. I mean, it's awesome because they're all super smart people, and they really have divergent opinions on things, and they clash, and it's really fun. And I always learn something every time we do it. It's really a great experience for me.
Yeah, that's cool. You've been able to build up that network of people that get on and give their opinion and are knowledgeable.
Yeah, I love having. I mean, a lot of people watch the show just to see Alan and Oleg go at it because they almost invariably disagree about something.
Yeah, he seemed pretty opinionated.
That's great because they're smart. You know, if you have two really smart people who have differing opinions, it's interesting to hear them, argue about it. That's why so many millions of people watch the presidential debates. They want to see intelligent people argue about stuff. And I get to do that, for free on my show. It's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it took a while to build up the group that I have now, But yeah, it's great. It makes it a great show.
So where did you start with that? You just interview popular Google Plus users, and then so do you make it? I haven't actually watched one. I don't think I've watched one live. I've watched the recording. So are they open to anyone to jump in, or do you just have invited people that you invite to each one?
I have, as far as participants or viewers?
As far as participants.
Oh, participants, it's my caller circle. It's people who have been in the show before. The first thing I'll do is invite the guests. It's not about who's popular, because like lately, the last few times we've had popular people on, but that was kind of a coincidence where I encountered them and said, hey, you're interesting. Why don't you come on my show? But most of the shows have not had a specific guest person. It's just, like this week in Google Plus. So I open it up to them, and then you kind of develop who resonates well and who contributes, and it's developed and I've discovered through, initially I just opened up to anybody, and then I had to whittle it down just because we will fill up quickly.
Yeah.
And so I have to be selective because I don't want someone who I really want in to not be able to get in because it's full. But yeah, it just takes a little time. But it's not about trying to get the big name people, although obviously when you have a big name person and then they share the show later, it helps draw more attention to the show. But really it's just been trying to deliver consistently good content, having smart people who have opinions to offer on the program, and that's what's built it up. Now we'll have anywhere, the high is probably 4,000, a little over 4,000 on Google Plus or on YouTube, and that's not including anybody who watches it on Justin, so or the live stream. But most people watch it after the fact. It's 100 to 1, like live versus after the fact. Most people watch it on demand later. But we'll get anywhere from, 2,000 or 3,000 to probably 5,000 a week if you count everything together.
That's pretty good. So do you is it mostly tech news, or do you open it up to all kinds of discussion of anything?
It's basically about Google Plus. It's about whatever happened that week. And then if we have somebody, like we had Mike Elgin on last week, and the week before that it was Sarah Hill from KOMU, and then I've got a couple different guests I'm working on for tomorrow night, but I haven't confirmed it 100%, so I'm not saying yet. But and some weeks we'll just have the regular participants, and we'll just talk about, the week's news. But basically that's what it is. It's like what happened this week in Google Plus, and there's so many controversies, like letting underage people in. The Search Plus Your World thing is an ongoing controversy, and you have to, you can debate that and argue about it, and so we hash it out. And as long as you have good, talented people who are smart, who have really interesting and informed points of view, and they're hashing it out, then that makes for good, compelling content. And it's all about the content.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the secret. Give them
Content
something
is
that they
king.
think about. Give them something they can argue about, and it makes them stop and think. Well, maybe that guy has a point, or or really that guy's full of crap, or whatever. It makes them think, and then they tune in. And my show, it can get ridiculously long, like 2 hours. I mean, just totally ridiculously long. And sometimes people complain about it, but sometimes but then they watch or listen. And now I'm starting to do an audio version as well, an audio podcast for folks who. But it's just like when you have someone like Mike Elgin on. I mean, how do you edit it? I mean, every word he says.
How do you stop him?
Yeah, every word he says is like, wow, that's really interesting. And so I'm not going to edit that, And we try to move it along, but like he's just so interesting and entertaining that I didn't want to edit a single word out. And so, like, if it's 2 or 3 hours, I don't care. That's the deal. You can watch or not watch, or listen or not listen.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you pulled in several different people so you can have more of that controversy and debate. That's something we don't a lot of times get into on our show, just because we only usually have one guest, and a lot of time we aren't arguing and debating. It's more just discussion of the news, and we're usually agreeing. But it's cool coming from a different perspective that you're a lot of times disagreeing, and I think that gives a different aspect that makes it interesting, makes people think a little more, I think.
Yeah, you should look at the video for this, because and this will be on not my main Google Plus Week account, but the YouTube account is McDermott Report, and as soon as it uploads, I'll mark it as, by default it's private, but I'll mark it as public. But compare your video quality with the show we did tonight, your show, and I think you'll find it's better on here. And what I would do is if Steve has multiple computers, he could even do separate hangouts and just invite each person to a separate hangout. Because I can tell you, looking at you now, the video picture I see from you here is vastly better than what I saw on Skype. And
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of complaints about Skype lately, and I think a lot of it is once they did the Facebook integration, that their network is being more taxed.
Yeah, some of it is that, but it also might be because Nicholas we're on the same network, so we were both going. That definitely cut down on both of our quality too, but it might also be the Skype issue.
Yeah, I don't know. Be interesting.
Yep.
But anyway. All right, well, I appreciate it. It was awesome. I had fun doing your show, and once you post that thing, I'll share it.
Okay, I'll get it on sometime tomorrow afternoon, whenever Steve rolls around to posting it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yep.
Because like I miss stuff because I'm concentrating on, so I didn't get to watch it or anything, so it'll be interesting for me to see it or listen to it.
Yep. Yeah, usually, sometimes we post it if the video turns out, which usually the video doesn't turn out, but I think it did. I think it did tonight. Besides the quality issue on my end, I think the video turned out, so he'll have the video posted.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I'll have to take off then.
All right, buddy. Have a good night.
Yep. You too. Nice talking to you.
All right. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Have fun times. Peace out. Let me see if I got any last minute comments here before I shut it off. Newt wants the moon to be the American state. It's some nonsense. He did a thing. Newt Gingrich has talked about colonizing the moon for 20 years, and it's an interesting thing. It's a debate thing, and you can argue either way about that. As a Star Trek fan, a Star Wars fan, it'd be neat to see, but it's a lot of money involved. But then you could potentially learn so much from there, but then do you have the money for that luxury? That's the big debate. Is China still a communist country, or is it an empire with a dynasty that happens to have been a communist country at some point? That's a good question. I remember when Hong Kong, and this is from George in the Netherlands, George Cozy. I remember when Hong Kong switched from British control to the Chinese control, and the best argument I heard was, or the best observation was from George Will from ABC. He said, the big question is, now that Hong Kong is switched into a Chinese-controlled area, a big, capitalist area now under control of a communist government, will China change Hong Kong, or will Hong Kong change China? And I think that's a great observation, a great comment, and we'll see. I think the same applies in this case. But anyway, okay, thanks for watching. Everybody's watching, and we will conclude this Hangout. Peace.